Hello, and welcome to another episode of UA Overtime. I'm Joe, and I'm your host. I'm here with Phil, Dylan, and Carl. Today we have a lot of great topics for you guys. The first thing we're going to talk about in the first quarter debate is the MLB. The World Series got started. The San Francisco Giants are ahead right now in the Detroit Tigers, 2-0 with the series heading back to Detroit. So we're going to debate here who we think is going to win the series and what do we see happening the rest of the games. Carl, what do you got for us?
Well, so far San Francisco's pitching looks amazing. Bumgarner and Zito did magnificent jobs in their starts. You know, I think that's going to be tough for the Tigers to come back, but I still think that they will even up the series 2-2. I think that they'll win their next 2 games at home. Then from there, you know, it's whoever pitches better. I think that the Tigers will still win the series. I don't count them out of it. You know, both 2 series before, the Giants came back and won. Now they're ahead. They're feeling a little good about themselves. You know, they might not, you know, be ready for going into Detroit. So I think that the Tigers will come back in this series.
All right.
I'll say that the Tigers, I don't know if they'll come back. They'll definitely push it to 6 games, but I still see San Francisco winning. I really can't see the Tigers coming back to actually tie the series by Game 4, because Game 4, San Francisco will have Matt Cain starting at the helm, and they'll have Vogelslong, who's been magnificent. He looked terrific in Game 6 against the Cardinals. They'll have him for Game 3 against Anibal Sanchez, who did pretty good in the postseason. In this playoffs, he had 1.35 ERA. But a lot of that had to do with that shutout against the very slumping Yankees team. So it's going to be very interesting test for him going up against a very tough San Francisco offense. So I really don't think – I think they'll win a game or 2, but I really can't see them actually tying the series up. But I definitely still see this series going to 6 games, but San Francisco's going to win.
Okay.
I'm not going to say it's definitely over, but the Giants did exactly what they needed to do. They won the first 2 games. Game 1, they won. They knocked around Verlander, which was exactly what they needed. And historically, teams that win Game 1 win the series 62% of the time. And teams that start up 2-0, historically are 42 out of 51. The team that starts up 2-0 wins. So the Giants are in a great spot right now. Who would have thought Barry Zito would be so crucial to this team coming into the season? If you told me he would start Game 1 and Lincecum would be in the bullpen, I wouldn't believe it. The Giants are 3-0 in his start this postseason, and they were 11-0 to end the season in his starts. So the Giants, their pitching has been great so far, like Carl said. I think they keep it up. Detroit's offense is not as good as the Yankees made them look. They're struggling. They only had 2 hits last night. I think Detroit, they'll be able to win like maybe Game 3. But like Phil said, Matt Cain going in Game 4. I think the Giants go up 3-1, and then they finish in either Game 5 or Game 6. I just think the Giants are rolling right now. They have all the momentum from coming back against the Cardinals and the Reds. I think they're just going to roll to the championship.
I agree with everything you guys said. The big thing is that I think that the baseball kind of goes the same way with the New York Giants getting hot last year in the playoffs and winning the Super Bowl. It's the same time. The San Francisco Giants are hot right now. I do agree with you. I think the Yankees made the Detroit Tigers look like a phenomenal all-star team full of players. Yeah. They're a good team, but they're not as great as we made them seem. So that could be a big problem for the Detroit Tigers now. They needed to take one of the games at San Francisco, and they didn't. They're down 2-0. You guys make a great point about Matt Cain, one of their best pitchers, and he's going in Game 4. Even if they do take Game 3, it's going to be tough to come back from a 3-1 deficit.
And basically the thing is now for professional sports, you look at it like, oh, whoever has the best record, you know, they're going to go far in the playoffs. Pretty much now all it is, you got to get in the playoffs. Once you're in the playoffs and you're hot,
absolutely,
you know, you're the team to beat. We see it all the time now. It's a common thing.
We've seen it this past NHL postseason with the Los Angeles Kings.
Oh, yeah.
Barely made the playoffs in the 8th seed, and they dominated everybody.
Yeah.
And we've seen it last year with the Giants, too. They barely won the division at the last game of the year, and they rolled over the competition in the playoffs.
And before that with the Green Bay Packers also with the Super Bowl title.
I just think the Tigers have to be worried about Verlander because he's 0-3 all-time in the World Series, and he's their guy, and if he can't get it done, then there's no way
they get it. He did not look himself in Game 1.
They had a long rest. I think they had 5 or 6 days off. So
he looked as bad as he did in the All-Star game, though.
Yeah.
That was like the last time I've seen him pitch.
And Sandoval, historic game. That was awesome to watch.
Yep. That's going to be our first quarter debate. We're going to come back in the second quarter. We're going to talk about some NCAA football. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back. Our second quarter debate is going to be on the NCAA. Right now, Alabama is ranked number 1. They're atop the college football world, and not by the slimmest of margins either. Everybody has them already kind of placed in the national championship right now. So our debate is going to be, assuming that Alabama makes it to the national championship, who do you got them playing? And the team that they face, do they actually have a chance? So, Dylan, you'll be up first.
I think there's a couple of highly offensive teams that can compete with Alabama. I'd say Oregon's definitely the favorite. If USC can get in, I think they could compete, and Kansas State's looked great so far. With that being said, Alabama's just been so dominant. They're embarrassing all the teams they've been playing. Their defense is only allowing a little over 8 points a game. I think no matter who makes it to the championship game, as long as Alabama's there, they're going to win. Just Coach Saban has them playing great right now. I know they have a tough schedule left. They're playing Mississippi State this weekend. They're at LSU next weekend, and then all likelihood they're going to be playing Florida in the SEC championship game. But until I actually see Alabama struggle, I just think they're gonna dominate and they're gonna win. Oregon will be a great matchup, but I think Alabama gets it done.
All right, fair enough.
I have to agree on all your points that you just said that Alabama's going to roll to the competition. They averaged about 42 points in every game thus far that they've played, and they've allowed the number one in the nation in points against. They only allow on average 8.3 points per game, and I can see going up against in the national championship game, Kansas State. I'm kind of getting on the Kansas State bandwagon. Like what I'm seeing from Colin Klein, definitely a Heisman hopeful. The previous win against West Virginia, he threw for a career-high 323 yards, with 3 passing touchdowns. He also ran for 4 touchdowns in that game, in that win against West Virginia. So I think they'll make a little bit of a run, but again, I do see Alabama just rolling over them like they roll over everybody else. Again, tough schedule the rest of the way with their SEC matchups, but I do see Alabama repeating, and the great coach Nick Saban will most likely be, assuming he does repeat, he'll be the first coach since Tom Osborne in Nebraska in 94-95 to repeat back-to-back national titles.
All right, Carl?
I'm going to say this right now. It's a prediction, but Alabama will win every game they play this year. They are one of the most dominant college football teams I've seen ever. I thought last year's Alabama team was, and then I see this year, and they're just as good. I mean, Alabama, they've outscored their opponents 287-58 in 7 games. They're averaging 8.3 games given up in a game. Their defense could play in the NFL and maybe win 6 games. They are that good. I'm telling you right now. Nick Saban's got his team going, and if I had to pick one team to contest with them, it'd be Oregon. But even Oregon, they play in the Pac-10. It's not as tough as the SEC. The SEC is the most competitive division in the league, and I don't see any team touching Alabama.
All right. I agree. Everything you guys said is absolutely right. There's no arguing that Alabama is the best team in the country right now. Nick Saban is by far the best coach. Traditionally, we see an Alabama team that's usually led by their defense with an offense that just kind of good enough to win the games. That is not what we see this year.
Absolutely.
Their offense is definitely top tier in the country right now. A.J. McCarron, their quarterback's playing great. They have a host of highly recruited prospects coming up. It seems like every year Nick Saban just restocks the talent pool right there. Brings up the top recruits every year. Alabama's real good. I do like Oregon having a chance though. Everybody was talking about how great Cam Newton was in college and Auburn was so good. You have to remember they barely won that game. It was a last-second field goal that won Auburn the national championship over Oregon. I think Oregon definitely depends on their freshman quarterback, Marcus Mariota. If he can play good and against some good teams, the Pac-10 isn't great, but if they can make it to the national championship, anything could happen. It's a different offense than Alabama's used to seeing with their trick plays and their fast-paced style. So I do give them more of a chance than anybody else, but it's going to be tough.
You're absolutely right about A.J. McCarron. He leads the country in passer rating, and he hasn't had an interception yet this year. It's 239 passes, I think, without an interception. He makes that offense so much better, and with that great defense, they look unstoppable right now. Oregon, you're right, their offense looks great, but I don't think they haven't played a defense like Alabama. So
and if you look at their running game with Lacey, I mean, he looks just like Trent Richardson. I don't know where they get these guys, but they're like machines, and they just run through everybody. And this guy's going to be a stud. I think he's a sophomore or something, but he's amazing. And Alabama has a very good rushing attack, so watch out for that too.
Yep, all valid points. We'll find out what happens towards the end of the year with the national championship. We all got Alabama here. You heard it first. We're going to come back after halftime for our third quarter debate, talk about the NFL. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We're going to get into our third quarter debate. We're going to be talking about the NFL. This weekend we're coming into Week 8 of the season, so we're going to hand out some mid-season awards here. So the first things first, who do you got as your mid-season MVP, Phil?
Well, my mid-season MVP would be Arian Foster of the Houston Texans. He leads the league in rushing right now, probably the big staple of that Houston offense, even though it is led by Matt Schaub, a great year he's having. But again, my MVP would have to go to Arian Foster, tremendous running back, signed that big contract, worth every penny.
All right, Carl?
I got to go with Mr. Discount Double Check himself, Aaron Rodgers. We all know he had a shaky start to the beginning, but the Packers are looking better now. They beat up on the Texans. In Rodgers' last 4 games, he has 16 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions. He has a 122.2 passer rating average per those 4 games. He's first in the league in that on the season total, and he just looks like he's orchestrating like a true captain right now. He looks like MVP caliber, and he's my guy right now for the first 7 weeks of the season.
All right, Dylan?
I think if Aaron Rodgers, he's hot right now. If he keeps it up, he's going to end up winning the award. But right now, my most valuable player is J.J. Watt on the Texans. He is just an absolute freak this year. They're the second-ranked defense, and he's the reason why. He's on pace now for 21.5 sacks, 1 off the record. And batted passes on the line, he's just insane. He has 10 so far. Yeah. The record's 13. He's going to absolutely shatter the record. He's on pace for 23, I think it is. He is the reason that defense is ranked second in the league. He's just a monster. I'm tired of quarterbacks win it every year. Rodgers got it last year. Aaron Foster, he's a good pick. But no, J.J. Watt, he's a freak, strong country boy, and he's just gonna win it. I think right now he's the most valuable player.
All right. We got no wrong answer here, obviously, but my award's gonna go to my Eli Manning, the quarterback from my New York Giants.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong here. Everybody laughed at him 2 years ago when he said that he was an elite quarterback in the NFL. Right now, I don't think there's anybody who could say he's not a top 3 quarterback. He led the team to a 5-2 start right now. They're in the lead in the NFC East. You got to understand, when you're coming off as a Super Bowl champions, every team is coming at you. They have a bullseye in their back every week. And for them to be 5-2 is impressive. And I definitely like Eli as the MVP right now. If he could keep it up, maybe be sharing MVP titles with.
I don't want to hear about Eli.
He's the most clutch quarterback in the
NFL. He still makes throws in the first quarter. It's like, what is he thinking? What is he doing?
He finishes.
All you gotta do is win.
Eli.
So the last thing we're going to talk about in the NFL is our must-win games this week. So who do you have as a must-win game? Phil, first?
Well, the team that absolutely must win to keep their season alive and afloat and avoiding an absolute train wreck is the New York Jets. I mean, last week against the Patriots, they had so many ample opportunities to win that game, and the defense went soft again, allowing Tom Brady and company to drive down the field and allow them to tie the game. And, of course, the way that game ended with that fumble by Sanchez, Nikovic would force that fumble and recover it. And I thought that was a game that the Jets easily had it in their bag. They could have sealed it away at the end when they got that fumble kickoff, a fumble return, that when they recovered the fumble. I thought they easily should have won that game, and now they're facing a rather must-win situation, which is weird you say against the Miami Dolphins. You really don't say that Miami Dolphins is a must-win, but granted, the way that they played in Week 3, the Jets technically shouldn't have won that game. The Dolphins shot themselves in the foot in that overtime period, but this is a very absolute must-win for the New York Jets to keep their season afloat.
All right, Carl?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers. They're 4-3. They're falling behind the Bears. The Bears look really good, and they're playing Jacksonville this week, the Packers, and they got to win to keep up in the NFC North.
I'm going to stay in the NFC North, but I'm going to go with Detroit. Everyone had them as a playoff team coming into this year. They were a team last year. They're 2-4 right now. Stafford only has 5 touchdowns in 6 games. And in the NFC North, where the Bears look like one of the best teams in football, and they're playing with the Packers, they have to win to even have any chance of making the playoffs.
All right, I'm going to go with a team that everybody thought was going to have a pretty solid year with a lot of great players, but they went through some controversy. The Saints, they're in a tough division because the Falcons right now are the best team in the NFL. It's a big problem for the Saints where they lose their head coach and a bunch of their starting players to suspensions. But right now they're getting Joe Vitt back after a 6-game suspension, so that should give the team some extra life. If they want any chance to make the playoffs after starting 0-4, they have to win this week. And they're going into Denver to play the Peyton Manning-led Broncos, so it's not going to be easy. But I definitely think that the Saints have a must-win game this weekend. So everybody had a good pick, but we'll see what happens. So stay tuned with us. We're going to go to a break. We're going to come back for our fourth quarter debate. We're going to talk about the New York Yankees and what they should do this offseason. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Our fourth quarter debate is going to be about the New York Yankees. This obviously wasn't the year that everybody thought it was going to be. It didn't end the way we had definitely pictured and hoped. It was a disastrous ending. So right now, going into the offseason, we're going to make our predictions on what the Yankees need to do to bring it back for a successful year next year. Dylan, what do you think?
As every Yankee fan, I was so disappointed this playoffs, but I'm not expecting a lot of major moves. I think Nick Swisher's going to be gone, but they have to address pitching. They have to bring Hiroki Kuroda back. He was great this year. He was very solid. I think Andy Pettit's going to come back. And I think they should make a move, and someone that's available is Matt Garza. He's a front-of-the-line pitcher, and he knows the AL East. He's experienced. I think they should go get him. And offensively, I think they should sign Ichiro back. I want him back in left field, Granderson in center, and then right field, everyone don't think about Josh Hamilton. They're not paying for Josh Hamilton. They need to get under the salary cap. There's no way that's happening. Someone I want them to go get is Torrey Hunter. It's reported yesterday that the Angels aren't going to sign him back. He hit 300 last year. He hit 16 home runs. He's a great outfielder. He'll be solid in Yankee Stadium. He said in his career he would like to be a Yankee at some point. I think they can get him for a 1-year contract, cheap, put him in right field, have Gardner on the bench, and bring Ibanez back. It's a good bench. The offense isn't going to look that different other than Swisher next year. It's not going to be that different.
All right. Phil?
Well, I do believe that they have to make some moves regarding their bullpen as well. They have Mariano's going to be a free agent. It's interesting to see what they do with him. They have Rafael Soriano, who I believe has 1 more year, but he is expected to opt out. He does have the opt-out clause, which they believe is going to be exercised. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. A lot of other questions with their bullpen. A lot of things that Jabba Chamberlain came back this year. Didn't really look too impressive. Looked kind of shaky at times. I don't know if they see if they want to shop him around. Maybe Phil Hughes as well. He looked rather decent this past year. Didn't really do anything wrong. Pitched pretty good in the playoffs. But I do that they could shop him and Jabba around. A couple things. Maybe go after a couple more quality relievers and on top of the pitching as well. And we'll expect to see Michael Pineda next year. He missed out the entire year with the shoulder injury. We're still waiting to see how he goes on the pitcher's mound.
All right, Carl?
Yeah, I think the Yankees should get rid of Nick Swisher. You know, he doesn't deliver in the playoffs anymore, and he's not really doing that well overall. And he wants a larger contract than the Yankees are willing to give him. I think they should just get rid of him and look for someone else like Torrey Hunter.
All right, I definitely agree. Everything you guys said are great points. I'm going to focus on the A-Rod thing. Everyone keeps talking about, jumping the gun because all the how mad everybody was about A-Rod performing in the playoffs. We can't get rid of A-Rod. Just as everybody was very disappointed with him, but you can't get rid of him. We want to get under the salary cap. We can't pay for 2 third basemen, and we don't have a viable replacement. If we had somebody coming up from the farm system who was definitely, a big prospect, I'd be all for it. But we can't. Eric Chavez is not better than A-Rod. A-Rod had a bad second half of the year this year, but he still is better on average than half the third basemen in the league. So hopefully he can have a bounce-back year, and the Yankees can definitely also have a bounce-back year following him.
One thing I really think they need to do is Cano, they have to lock him up. I know he was terrible in the playoffs, dreadful, but he's got 1 year left. They don't want to deal with this controversy with the contract all throughout the season. Give him his money. He deserves. He's one of the best players in baseball, best hitter, and just give him his money. He needs to get locked up.
Did you see his batting average before the playoffs?
He was like 600, right?
Yeah, 600 in like the week before the playoffs.
Like the last 9 games, he was like 613.
And as soon as the playoffs came,
they got to lock
shut
him
down. Yeah.
I also another interesting note that I want to say is about Curtis Granderson. I mean, he's been atrocious in these playoffs, but they're expected to pick up his option for next year. He's going to be a free agent next year. But I do think that they'll probably take the time out. Back-to-back years of 40 home runs and 100 RBIs, granted also over 100 strikeouts, like about 130 or so around that neighborhood. But I would say that they should pick up the option, maybe, if not in the offseason, maybe in the midseason. Try to shop him around. Maybe they can get some good quality out of him.
Yep, all valid points. So we'll see what happens in the offseason here for UA Overtime. Come back. We're going to be talking about the NFLPA. Stay tuned.
UA Overtime, you Albany's leader in sports.
Welcome back to our Overtime debate. We're going to be talking about the NFLPA. It was reported this past week that dealing with the Saints bounty case, that Roger Goodell, through all the controversy, stepped down and appointed Paul Tagliabue, the former NFL commissioner, to oversee the case. And right now the NFLPA has came out and publicly said they're not happy with that, so we're going to express our feelings. Dylan, what do you think?
I'm just done with the entire bounty scandal. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of hearing about it. First the players are suspended, then they're unsuspended, then they're suspended again with shortened sentences. Goodell has evidence, then he doesn't have evidence. He steps down, he appoints Tagliabue. Vilma's initially okay with it. Now the entire Players Association is against it. This thing is dragged on way too long. I'm tired of talking about it. It's make the NFL look terrible that this takes so long to figure this out. The players have lost complete respect for Goodell. They bash him whenever they can, and the NFL needs to lock it up and figure this all out. I'm tired of it.
Agreed. What do you think, Phil?
I understand the concerns from the Players Association as to why they want Tagliabue to step down, mostly citing conflict of interest because he works with the law firm that represented Goodell in the bounty case. But I do think that he should kind of hear this case because as a former commissioner, when he was before Goodell, when he was commissioner, when he would discipline players, he would wait till all their cases went through courts and wait for all the evidence and facts to get out, versus Goodell, who would just try to investigate himself and have his own agenda and just punish players right away any way he can. So I think it's going to be a much more lenient kind of thing, much more understandable kind of thing with Tagliabue. But I do agree with Dylan that this is dragged on far enough, longer than it needs to be. I think at some point they just got to get a federal judge in there to just settle everything once and for all.
All right, Carl?
I agree with the Players Association. It's a very confusing topic to go over, but I think that, Tagliabue, I understand why they don't want him there. The NFL is thinking that they can get an enforcer to just, be a lawyer and get all the cases done with, and then everything that he says, everything that he appeals, it's final, and the Players Association can't have anything to do with it after. But it's not fair for the Players Association. They have to, Goodell hides away and gets some guy who's a lawyer and the former commissioner, but it's not fair for them, and I completely understand why they're upset with it. I don't really understand why Vilma's okay with it. You know, it's the case is against him, but you know,
he was initially okay with it. Now he's with the Players Association.
It's all messed up. They gotta figure it out.
All right, I agree with everything you guys said. This entire case is a mess. This is really messing with Goodell's public image. He was, first of all, he came off as a real hard guy, and he was definitely going to, suspend people. He was going to be more serious than Tagliabue and definitely not let things fly. And he did that, and he was fine with that, and everybody knew he was a strict guy. Now he just looks kind of silly with doing things and then taking them back, and now he's trying to appoint certain people to do other things. If I'm the NFLPA, I'm obviously not happy that he's bringing in like his right-hand man and someone that definitely agrees with him on this to definitely oversee the case. I would want maybe an outside source, bring in a federal judge, someone that has no prior knowledge of the case that could take looks at both sides and then make a fair ruling. Yeah. That's what I'd be happy with. But we definitely all agree. I want this thing over with and done with. You don't want to hear any more about it. Either they're playing or they're not.
Yeah, I don't even care if they play. I don't even care about the suspensions anymore. Just figure it out. I don't care if Vilma plays. The Saints aren't even that good this year. Just lock it up.
And speaking of commissioners, we found out yesterday it was reported that the NBA commissioner, David Stern, after 30 years of service, is going to step down. So we're going to talk a little bit about him. Dylan?
I think David Stern's one of the greatest commissioners ever. He gets a bad rep because he's strict, but he does it all to protect the NBA's image. And his protege, Adam Silver, is going to be the guy taking over. I don't see much of a difference once David Stern's trained him. He's going to be the same as David Stern, so I don't see much of a drop-off. I don't think it's going to be a huge deal.
All right, Phil?
I think he's going to definitely be missed. I mean, a lot of Lakers fans still feel very bitter about him for stopping the Chris Paul deal, and a lot of people, maybe some Kings fans from, remember, 10 years ago, still feel that he kind of, one example, kind of still feel bitter about him having some sort of a role in having the refs fix the Western Conference Finals that year, amongst some other things, with the frozen envelope and the draft of Patrick Ewing to the Knicks. But overall, David Stern, he's done tremendous work with the NBA. I mean, making it the global icon of an organization it is today. Influencing the NBA Finals being live, as it was being a tape delay before he took over, amongst the many other great things. Made it a global brand to this day. I mean, the impact that he had on the NBA, and it's going to be exactly 30 years. When he retires in 2014, it will have been 30 years since he had taken over in February 1st, 1984. The impact that he had since then has been remarkable.
All right, Carl?
Yeah, I'm pretty neutral on Stern's retirement. You know, he's had his up and downs. Overall, he's pretty good, but it's always, it sucks to see a guy like him go. You know, we're all used to seeing him in the NBA. He's like the face of the NBA, but he's getting old. He's got to do his thing, so I understand completely.
All right, I agree. It's definitely been a good run for David Stern. He's been there 30 years. He said he was quoted this morning as saying he's going to do 1 year for every every NBA franchise. So, I mean, he did his thing 30 years. There wasn't too many negative things to say about him. There's definitely more drama going on with Roger Goodell than you ever heard with David Stern, so that's got to be a positive thing. So, I mean, we're sad to see him go, but hopefully he'll have a great retirement. So we're going to go right into our final thoughts here. Dylan, what do you got for us today?
My final thought is on Mariano Rivera, the greatest closer ever. It was reported yesterday he's actually considering retiring rather than come back next year. And if it is time for Mo to leave, on behalf of all Yankee fans, I just want to say thank you. You were the greatest ever. We loved watching you, and
salute
you will be missed. And I can't wait to hear Enter Sandman at the Old Timers Day.
All right, Phil?
My final thought is going to be Albany football. This is going to be Saturday. They're going into Connecticut, take on Sacred Heart. Should be a good game for the Great Danes after their much-deserved bye week, deserved rest. And I expect them to run the table pretty much, win out the rest of the year, and they're still ranked 22nd right now. I do expect them to have a strong finish to the rest of the season, and it should be looking good.
All right, Carl?
All right, so the NHL announced that all the November games have been canceled, and there will not be a full 82-game season. Hockey fans, I feel your pain. It's really killing me right now. You get repped up for the season, and it doesn't happen. So it doesn't look good for us right now. Hopefully they can get a deal done, but the Players Association and the owners are not on the same terms at all. And, it doesn't look good for us.
All right, I have two final thoughts. One involves sports and one doesn't. The first one, the Giants are playing the Cowboys this Sunday, 4:15. Big Blue, we got to represent here. We lost week one. We're embarrassed by the Cowboys. We definitely got to get this victory. It'll be a big statement win in the NFC East. Our second one, or my second one, is going to be my girl, Taylor Swift. Her and her boyfriend, Connor Kennedy, broke up yesterday. I just want to send a shout-out. Come see me. I'm waiting. Whenever,
How many breakups is that like this year? How many breakups does that make?
It doesn't matter.
Her hotness is overrated. She's not that
Once
hot.
we get together, there'll be no breakups. You don't have to worry about any of that. It'll be done.
All she does is whine.
No. Easy.
Team Miley Cyrus.
Stop. Team Taylor. All right, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.
inside the play in the corner.